Hello and welcome back. I'm Deirdre and this is day 22 of decluttering some more, packing up and getting ready to move on the big downsize from the family home to an apartment. I've been into the city today to have some tests, so my arm is a bit sore and I'm not going to be packing and lifting and decluttering today, so I thought I'd do a chat about waste. I know, really boring, technical sort of stuff. So if you want to switch off now, I completely understand and I love you and I'll see you tomorrow. But if you were interested in how I've managed the waste on this particular property and how I try to do it in general, then hang around and we'll have a chat about it. To start with, this block has some specific external factors that make maintaining it within like a capsule really important. You've got to hold the waste inside this block. The first and the most important is that I'm within, well, just on 200 metres from the Yarra River, which flows down from the Yarra Valley and into Melbourne and out to Port Phillip Bay. And so any waste that leaves this block would become part of the river. It would go straight downhill and flow into the river. And it's very important that we don't allow that to happen. We've got to maintain the quality, and it has been improved a lot over the years, but it is very important that we focus on that detail of maintaining clean blocks and not allowing the runoff to disturb the river. The other thing that's important here is that this property is within a planning zone labelled as an area of significant landscape and wildlife. We are encouraged by these laws to keep our native bush as much as possible, to plant, to have open views through to the valley and down to the river, and also to allow wildlife to come and go. So that's really important. And then the third thing is that I'm also in a zone of high risk bushfire. So come the summers here in Melbourne and all over Australia really, we are all at risk from bushfire, but I'm in an area where it's particularly bad. And because of that, we do have to keep our blocks quite clean. Having then said that we are also encouraged to keep them as natural as possible, but it is this sort of balancing act. So in terms of waste removal, we have a small garbage bin every fortnight. That's for sort of general household waste. We have a much larger recycling bin on the alternative fortnight, and every week we have green bins that we can put out, that we can put garden waste and food scraps and those sorts of things into. So that's the setup, and then once a year we're allowed to put, and then once a year we have what's called a hard waste, and you book that and they come out and take away big items like mattresses and refrigerators and those sorts of things that sometimes have to be replaced and you need to get them removed. That being said, I have maintained a block that has very, very little household waste going out. I have a lot of recycling goes out. I always fill my green bins, but everything else is maintained within the block. To start with, let's get down and dirty here, all of the grey water and the black water, which is the polite way of saying the stuff that comes out of the loo, goes into a water treatment plant. Now, this is not an old-fashioned septic system. This is a high-tech water treatment plant. Runs on a little bit of electricity, and it filters and treats the water without chemicals, but by filtering it through various systems, through two big tanks, until it comes out and it's somewhere between grey water and potable, i.e. drinkable water. So I'm not saying that you would want to drink it, but you probably could without killing yourself, because the E. coli bacteria and all of those sorts of things have been removed by the treatment system. It's brilliant. That water is then piped up and through the property and distributed through subsurface irrigation pipes, little hoses basically under the surface, and it has helped me to grow a garden here. So that's how all of the water from the shower, from the loo, from the washing machine, everything has been treated in that way. All of the water that I've used on the garden has come off the roof of this house. Now, we do have obviously town water for drinking and for all of those other things, but all of the garden water is collected from the runoff from the roof and stored in two huge tanks. One is about 36,000 litres, so all of the water I've used here has been from the roof, from nature. And that is an amazing thing to be able to do. And then I come to, how do I handle all the other waste? Well, for example, let's take yesterday when I was disposing of those spices. I tipped them out, and just for the sake of interest, really, I wondered how much there was, just for my own sake. And so I actually tipped them out, and it came to just under 1 cup of actual spices that were left in those jars. The jars are thick. They make them thick so you think you're getting more, I'm sure of that. But anyway, that meant all the glass, all the jars, all the plastic lids could go into the recycling bin. And I had a cup full of waste. That waste, of course, went on my compost heap. I have an amazing compost system I have had over the years, and all of the kitchen waste, all of the household paper that isn't coloured, all of those sorts of things, anything that degrades easily and simply has gone onto one of my systems of compost. All of the softer garden waste goes onto it. You run the mower over it and then add it in, keeping a fairly important ratio between green and brown, the dry and the quite wet substances, and you mix it as it goes, and it's about 3 months here on average, I get probably about 2 square metres of beautiful black rich compost, which I then put on the garden and distribute it around, and it keeps the plants really healthy. So that's been the process for that. Now, anything goes on that. Now, I don't use paper towels, for example, except when it's going to be something that's like tomato. It's a monster. It's terrible to get out of cloth. But I use cloth towels as my kitchen wipe-ups, and they are just popped in the washing machine. I then also, of course, do use kitchen towels sometimes, and those go on the compost heap because they're just paper towels. What else do I put on it? I put all my veggie peelings. I put the egg shells. I put any, leftover food, along the way. Not that there's been much of that over the years with the family, but that sort of thing goes onto it. You don't put meat scraps on because that attracts vermin. That is the sort of thing you wrap and you put into these green waste bins that we have, and you can even put bones and things like that into it. I recycle everything if I can. For example, those taco shells that I threw away yesterday, the taco shells themselves, of course, went onto the compost heap. Oh, they were off. They were so off. You realise how much oil they put in those things when you smell them when they've gone rancid. Ugh, yuck. Anyway, so from those boxes, the only things that went in the waste was the aluminium pouch from the one that was rice and something, and the soft plastic wrap around the taco shells. The boxes themselves went into the recycling, and the food waste went into the compost bin. So from yesterday, nothing actually hit landfill except 2 small pieces of soft plastic and an aluminium pouch that it had sauce in it. In the time that I've lived here, I have taken this land from having no soil at all and virtually no garden to the garden that you've seen in some of my videos. And I now have about 400 mil, so 40 centimetres of soil that has been built up in the areas where I've put the compost. And I've got a thriving garden, and that's how I've done it. So that's my thing for the day. I hope it's been sort of interesting. I know it's not me buzzing around and decluttering, but I will be back tomorrow doing some other things. Let me know what you think about waste in general and how you manage it, because I think it's fascinating, and I think, all right, without making political comments, I think there's a lot about that in the media at the moment. So I think we're all quite focused on it, and I think it's great that we keep each other accountable for how we do manage our waste in our homes, and I don't mind that at all. I'll be back tomorrow with more of whatever I can find to do. Just as well I don't have a cat anymore, I probably would have wrapped the poor little fella up and tried to pop him in a box by now. Not to worry, I will find something to chat to you about and to show you. I hope that if you would like to join me, you will subscribe, and perhaps you'd like to check out my 30 days of decluttering that I did earlier. Have a lovely day wherever you are and whatever you're doing, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye!